Everyone's freaking out about the PTR, and it makes sense. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming from it. In fact, I'm not done talking about it. I plan to dive deep into Sombra, the new game modes, and what this upcoming patch is going to mean for the game in future videos. However, I think there's a lot of information that people just kind of missed from Blizzcon. Every year, one of the biggest hidden gems are the Q&A panels. And this year, Overwatch's Q&A was no different. They talked about upcoming hero nerfs, plans for additional content, and gave us some great insight as to their future developments and ideas that they have for this game. So here in this video, I'd like to take a look at some of those questions and answers, and then add upon them some of my own thoughts as well. Now, we will specifically be focusing on anything pertaining to the game itself. There were a lot of questions asked about characters' backgrounds and history and lore and parts of the world that survived the Omnic Crisis. I'm not so concerned with that stuff. I'd like to focus on the gameplay and things that will affect and change the balance and the features in this game. So let's go ahead and get things started. One of the first great questions was about whether or not they would be adding more PvE, a story mode specifically, to have some more ways to play Overwatch. Now, they responded that Junkenstein's Revenge was a bit of a test to see if the community enjoyed PvE content. The result? We seemed to. I myself specifically came out and talked about how much I loved it, and I think that if they added more features to it, a bit more depth, it could be something that people really love to play. Horde mode is a fun way to have PvE without putting too much development time into creating a ton of new assets in this giant world to explore. They could give us a good PvE mode without going too crazy down the rabbit hole, so I really enjoy it. Now, they said that a lot of their current team came from the WoW development team, and as a result, there's a special place in their heart for PvE, and that it's definitely something they're thinking about, but they don't have any solid plans as of this moment. The next big question we had was about competitive versions of 1 vs 1 and 3v3. If you saw my last couple of videos, you saw me talk about this. These are new gameplay modes that I think lend themselves very well to a competitive atmosphere and environment. They're high stakes, they require people to play more carefully, with more precision, and more well thought out gameplay, because they're not going to respawn. If you're dead, you're done. They said that the arcade features it at the moment, and while it started off as this lighthearted addition, they found that internally it became very, very competitive. Depending on how the community receives it, how popular it is, and how much people want it, they would actually consider making competitive versions of these gameplay modes. This is a very exciting thing for me to hear. As you've heard me talk about in those prior videos, I love these game modes. Specifically 3v3, I think is a lot of fun. The high stakes gameplay, the single life with the no respawn, I think it is a great, very competitive option to Overwatch. I think this would be great if they did it, and I really hope that they do. I hope the community embraces it and loves it as much as I do, and in turn, that they do actually come out with these competitive versions of these modes. The next question is one that you guys might either love or hate, depending on who your mains are. Hanzo and Roadhog are gonna both be getting nerfs. Specifically, they talked about Roadhog's hook is going to be changed in the very near future. The question was about how the hitboxes feel unfair for Hanzo's arrows specifically and Roadhog's hooks. Basically, they're not hitting you, but they're still hitting you because of the size of the hitboxes. And the response was that they work on this a lot, and they're constantly trying to figure out the trade-off between what feels fair for the player doing the shooting and the player getting shot. Obviously, you don't want Hanzo's arrows to be too precise so that it's almost impossible for most people to hit because it's a projectile in nature, but you also don't want people getting shot from around corners or hooked from around corners, which still can happen to this very day. They specifically said that Roadhog has an implementation that they're calling Hook 2.0 that will be ready soon. That change is happening. Roadhog's hook is getting nerfed. They basically confirmed it here. So changes are coming. They're still constantly doing this iteration, and again, figuring out what's best in these trade-offs. Moving on, we had a question about toxicity in the game, uncooperative teammates. Mainly the question seemed to be focused around, what do we do about people on our team who either troll us or don't talk to us when they're in a group of 3? They refuse to work with us and coordinate. The answer was long, a bit drawn out, but the basic summary of it was they don't want to force people out of their small party chat into the team chat. That's not going to happen. But they are working on ways to try to improve and incentivize this for people, and UI implementations are specifically what they were honing in on here, where it's probably going to be something like once you join a match and the option to join the chat with your team is there instead of your small party, there's probably going to be something right on that main screen to just click or activate that says, yes, I want to join. That's likely what it's going to be, instead of people having to now open up this social menu and specifically move chat channels, you know? It's not exactly what people who want everyone, all 6 team members, to be talking open mics guaranteed all the time. It's not exactly the answer that those people wanted, but I also understand where Blizzard's coming from, where they don't want to constantly force people into these different chat avenues, or as a result, force them to be talking on Skype or Discord so that they don't have to deal with that and they can just keep their private conversations. Next, we had the question about whether or not you would be able to pick individual maps in competitive play. So the answer was no initially for competitive. Not in quick match or competitive play can you select an individual map. You can obviously do that in custom games at the moment. However, they are thinking in the future, they basically said it's going to happen, server browsers. They're looking to allow and add server browsers to the game, which, if you're not familiar with these, it's basically an option where you can browse the different servers. So you can search through, if you just want to do a specific map and a specific mode, you can enable that. If you just want to do nothing but Hanamura, you can filter it and find the servers that are that specific game. Server browsers would be a huge addition, and they also extrapolated on this and talked about the democratization of Overwatch, and they would like to give us more options and see what we do with it. If they can give us more tools to play the game the way that we want to play it, instead of going into this hopper of competitive or quick play and being randomly assigned a map, if they can give us the option and they just find that certain things are way more popular than others, that gives them some insight as to where they should push the game in the future, as to what they should focus on, because this is obviously what the community wants. They're looking to put more of that power into our hands and let us play the way we want, and I think that's a great decision. I'm really excited to hear that server browsers will be coming. And then the final question I want to focus on is the one of solo queue in competitive play. Are we gonna get it? Well, no. I mean, yes, you can solo queue, but a solo queue only option where everyone you fight against is also only solo queue. There are no groups of 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. They're not doing it right now. It's not that they'll never do it in the future. They might consider it, but right now they're really focusing on keeping people and allowing people to play in teams without splitting up the player base too much. Although we could argue with this new arcade mode feature that they're adding, they already are splitting up the player base, and that's true. And if they add server browsers, they're going to be splitting up the player base even further. It's going to increase queue times one way or another, just by its very nature. Solo queue specifically, solo queue only for competitive play. It's not on the horizon. It doesn't mean it'll never happen, but right now, that's not their focus. Their focus is, this is a team game and team play. And that is basically it, guys. Those are the big questions that we had answered at the BlizzCon Overwatch Q&A that I think were worth telling you about, because again, I think this kind of flew off the radar a bit. I don't think a lot of people focused on it because there was so much other excitement and news behind Sombra, behind the arcade mode and all the new modes and maps that were coming with that. And it makes sense, I get it, but this was important stuff too, and these are some pretty big insights into where Overwatch is going in the future. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for me here today. Hope you all enjoyed the video. As always, please let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hope you have a good afternoon, and until next time, I'll see you later.